Good day everyone. Today, I will be discussing Unit 3 Legal Frameworks, Policies, Safety, and Inclusive School Culture. Our discussion will focus on DepEd orders on inclusion and SPED centers and also the Indigenous Peoples Education or IPED framework. These policies help us as future educators to create classrooms nga inclusive, safe, o respectful for all learners, especially learners with disabilities and indigenous learners. Here's my learning objectives. At the end of the lesson, the learners will be able to explain the key concepts of DepEd policies on inclusion or SPED centers and the Indigenous Peoples Education or IPED framework. Perform a role-play scenario that demonstrates inclusive classroom practices and culturally responsive teaching for learners with disabilities and indigenous learners. Show respect for diversity by demonstrating inclusive and culturally respectful behavior during classroom activities. Let us begin by understanding what a special education program is. What is special education program? Special education refers to a range of services provided in different ways and settings, depende sa needs sa learners. Dili siya separate education but a program that ensures nga learners with disabilities have equal access to quality education and learning opportunities. Next is identification and referral process. The SPED program also acts as a pathway for learners with disabilities to exercise the right to education. Identification usually starts sa classroom. Teachers observe learners nga lahi og learning needs kumpara sa ilang classmates. Once identified, they are referred for proper assessment so they can receive the appropriate support and services. Next is partial inclusion with resource room services in partial inclusion. Learners with disabilities stay most of the time sa general education classroom, but they also receive support sa resource room. Importante kayo diri ang collaboration between the general education teacher and the SPED teacher. Through teamwork, ang learners with disabilities makadawat og instruction nga mo-fit sa ilang individual needs. Also, pag-arrange sa classroom in an inclusive and accessible way helps promote acceptance, respect, ug active participation sa tanang learners. Next is transition program for learners with disabilities. The transition program prepares learners with disabilities for life after school. This includes teaching life skills, career and livelihood skills, socio-emotional skills. At the same time, the ALS or K-12 curriculum provides an alternative pathway for learners to complete basic education and achieve the same learning outcomes as regular students. Next is full inclusion in the general education classroom. In full inclusion, learners with disabilities are fully included sa general education classroom. Teachers apply instructional strategies nga angay sa needs sa learners so they can understand and participate effectively, preparing both the learning environment and teachers creates a classroom where all learners feel welcome, accepted, or respected. Collaboration in lesson planning helps provide personalized instruction for diverse learners. Next slide is responsibilities of special education teachers. One important responsibility of SPED teachers is designing the Individualized Education Program or IEP. This process includes gathering inputs gikan sa learners, family, and multidisciplinary team para ma-personalize ang plan based sa learners, strength, needs, ug goals. SPED teachers also collaborate with general education teachers to ensure nga ma-update o ma-encode properly ang data sa learners with disabilities sa information system for effective monitoring and support. Now, let us move to the legal and policy basis that supports indigenous learners. First is legal and policy basis. The 1987 Philippine Constitution protects the rights and culture of indigenous peoples, RA 8371, or the Indigenous Peoples' Rights Act of 1997 provides legal protection for their ancestral lands, culture, and traditions. In education, DepEd Order Number 62, Series of 2011 supports inclusive education for indigenous learners, while DepEd Order Number 32, Series of 2015 ensures that indigenous culture and knowledge are integrated into the curriculum. What is the IPED curriculum framework? The IPED curriculum framework is not a separate curriculum. It is a guide that helps schools adapt the K-12 curriculum by including indigenous knowledge systems and practices using the mother tongue and designing lessons based on the community context. Next is key principles of the IPED curriculum framework. 1. Principle is culture-based education, where learning starts from the learner's cultures, traditions, and life experiences. Another is community participation, where elders and community members are actively involved as partners in education. Lastly, respect for indigenous knowledge, systems, and practices means valuing indigenous ways of learning equally with formal education. Lastly is important of adapting the IPED curriculum framework. Adapting the IPED framework helps preserves indigenous culture and language, improve participation and academic success of IP learners, promote social justice and educational equity, strengthen partnerships between schools and indigenous communities. So, inclusive education is not only about following policies but about respect, understanding, and collaboration. Through the SPED program and the IPED curriculum framework, we ensure that every learner, regardless of ability or cultural background, has access to meaningful and quality education. Thank you very much and good day.